For the final Dead & Company tour, John Mayer was running a 2-amp setup. The first amplifier was his 50-watt Dumble Overdrive Special, the exact same amplifier that we saw him using in previous Dead & Company tours, as well as on the John Mayer solo tour, at least the very first leg of that tour, and that fed into a 2-rock 212 cabinet. And then there was a second amplifier, or at least what appeared to be a second amplifier, that was feeding into his Dumble 112 cabinet that we've also seen quite a lot over the past few years. And of course, the very first show, everyone sees what appears to be an amplifier covered by a red curtain, and speculations start to go wild. Is this a new PRS signature Mayer amplifier that he's working on? Is it something from 2-Rock? Is it just a really rare and extremely sought after piece of gear that he's just kind of hiding? Or is he just messing with all of us John Mayer fans and it's nothing special and he's just covering something with a red curtain just to have some fun and screw with us? It's all a possibility. And during the tour, friends of mine, we were trying to just figure out what was going on, and we ended up figuring out what this mystery amplifier was. And I know my friend Alejandro, who runs John Mayer Gear, posted about this weeks ago, pretty much right after we figured out what he was actually using. Me personally on the channel, something like that, I just didn't want to go and make a video on and discuss it while the tour was going on. If John was truly trying to hide what he was using during the tour, I wanted to do my best to respect that and not reveal it, at least during the tour. But now that the tour has come and gone, I think it's time to discuss what this amplifier was on the channel, and at least a bit of a decent balance between respecting John's wish to keep it hidden and then keeping you guys informed, and the fun of trying to figure out what gear John is actually using. So as a result of the Dallas show on May 26th of 2023, we have a shot of this mystery amplifier with that red curtain kind of pulled back just a little bit, and it gave enough information for us to pretty accurately, I believe, deduce what this amplifier is. And I have to give a shout out to Omega Jam on the My Stupid Mouth forum, who I believe is the very first one who shared this image of the amplifier with the curtain kind of not fully covering what it is. And a lot of people at first started to joke that it was a Marshall that John was using with the black and gold and white piping. However, it appears to be an extremely rare Dumble amplifier that is not very well known. There's not a lot of information out there on this amplifier, but it appears to be a Dumble small special 100-watt amplifier. And essentially from my research, what I've kind of gathered is these amplifiers were mainly intended to be used as bass amplifiers that Howard Dumble actually built. And it's pretty much a Dumble Overdrive Special without the overdrive circuit in it. So you're getting just what I assume is a really great sounding, clean amplifier with just an absolute load of headroom. Now, these images that you are looking at on your screen are from Denmark Street Guitars, and back in 2018 on June 25th, they had posted to their Facebook that they just landed a rare Dumble small special 100-watt amplifier, and if you look at the hashtags, ironically, they hashtagged John Mayer in there, and the amplifier just lines up exactly with what we see behind the curtain from what we can tell. Even the indent from the Tolex on the front and where the actual control panel is of the actual face of the amplifier, where it kind of is recessed in, that completely lines up. So this is easily the best guess as to what this is without actually having a point-blank shot of what is behind that curtain or any of the words to completely confirm that this is what it is. With the input jacks where you have a first input and a second input vertically on the left side, everything just seems to line up. And as I mentioned, these photos were posted back in 2018, and it might be possible that this is actually the exact one that John purchased and is using. Who knows, it'd be kind of funny to think that they hashtag John Mayer and then John calls him up and is like, hey, I want that Dumble small special. And they're just really great shots of the amplifier here, and kind of cool to see John using something very different that we've never seen him use, and a rather kind of almost oddball amp that Dumble had built. Now, there is one other thread from the Amp Garage that I wanted to bring up in regards to this Dumble Small Special 100, and the information was from Rob Livesey, who, from what I can tell, used to have a website in the early 2010s just about various Dumble amplifiers, either from his own experience, knowing Howard Alexander Dumble, or something like that. But he had a website that had a ton of information and images of these amplifiers that doesn't unfortunately exist anymore. However, there's one thread where he posted and talked about the amplifier, and I'm going to quote it here where he said, it's a mid-70s Dumble Small Special 100, the specific one he's referring to. I'm assuming John's is a mid-70s as well. And he says, this amp is basically a 100 watt overdrive special minus the overdrive. This circuit was also used as a bass amplifier, which kind of, makes sense based on other things as research, as it primarily being a bass amplifier from what I can tell. It has very full headroom and wonderful sparkly clean tones. Sounds something a lot like John would be right into. And he mentions the level control is a second volume inserted later in the circuit but before the phase inverter, so it allows for subtle adjustments to the gain characteristics of the preamp section. It's not about getting a crunchy overdrive sound, essentially. That's pretty cool. It also mentions a little bit later on, it's worth noting that they did make 50 watt small specials as well, so 50 watt and 100 watts. Knowing John, probably safe to assume he's using the higher wattage version, although the ODS he's using is a 50 watter, so maybe he's using two 50 watt amplifiers on the tour and he's just using a specific 50 watt, but I feel like for a clean headroom amplifier, he'd probably go for the 100 watt, and it would sound great even paired with a 50 watt overdrive special, which just really appears to be John's favorite Dumble ODS out of the past few years, but really cool. And unfortunately that website doesn't exist anymore. I've tried to find it and come up with no results, unfortunately. What I think is going to be really interesting is if John continues to use this amplifier going forward. We know Dead & Company isn't touring anymore, but they've been very explicit in stating that the band is still a thing and they will perform together sometime in the future. They just don't know exactly when, but touring is something that they're not doing going forward. But again, just a really cool amplifier in general that it appears that John is using, something that you don't really see a lot of at all, something that's not very discussed, and there's not a lot of information out there. So my apologies, I've done my best to kind of give you guys the best picture of what this amplifier is, at least what we're 99.9% sure it is in today's video. And again, just not wanting to go and talk about it while the tour was going on, to have that balance of trying to respect John hiding it, whether or not he was just messing with us or not. I felt that me personally, that was a move I wanted to take and stance on this specific amplifier. And yeah, hopefully we get some more John Mayer gear news in the future, kind of a break before the next leg of the solo tour begins. But when the solo tour does start up again, you best bet that I'll be making videos around that tour. It was just very special to get to go and even experience that tour live. And if you're on the fence about going to see John on this solo tour, please go do yourself a favor and go see him live, because it is just an incredibly special show that you won't really get anything like it probably again from John, at least for another decade or so, I'd like to think. So guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Let me know your thoughts on the Dead & Company final tour as a whole on this amplifier. If you think it's something else, but again, 99.999% sure that this is what it is. Knowing John, this makes the most sense, and I'm pretty confident in saying that this is what he is using. So again, thanks so much for watching today's video, especially if you stuck with me till the very end of it. I appreciate you a lot. Take care. We'll see you on the next one.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.